Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm as we continue on our quest for the right question to ask to answer with what is sensorality. You know what we're doing, logical analysis of language. We've proven the consistency of sound, the consistency of language, trying to find the right question to ask. All right, question. All right, language is already completely generalized, and it is already completely consistent, and it's already irreducible. You can't take a certain word and break it down to a certain point and retain the same empirical meaning. So a word is a sequence or series of sounds that has a well-defined meaning. And everything is infinitely unique. That's why we have different words. And do different words exist? Clearly. But if you ask a linguist, what is a word, they're not going to give you a definitive answer. But we just did. And so you know what we're doing, moving on with our derivation. Irreducibility is basic, right? Basis is as is. Basis is set. And so irreducibility is basic. Basicality is fundamentality. Irreducibility is complete. So these big ideas may be consistency, coherence, completeness, reducibility, right? Words are irreducible. Words have meaning, so therefore meaning is irreducible. And there's nothing else you can say about that because you need to use words to do so. But what is the opposite of irreducible, right? The thing we've established, we have this empirical not function, something exists, and then we say not that. Irreducible, clearly being the negative negating prefix, reducible being the statement of existence, right? There are no bad words, and logically that kind of translates to there's no negativity. You just have to say this and then not that. And so what is the opposite of irreducible? If something is as basic as it can possibly be and cannot be broken down more, it is irreducible. So the opposite is reducible. It can be broken down. So anything that is emergent is reducible. Emergency is reducibility. A definition is a connection, right? All of these words that are irreducible, that are discrete, that are independent, have some sort of empirical meaning. And that empirical meaning is solidified or stabilized from the sound, right? Onomatopoeia is like the basis of logic. And so how words are defined is based on their usage with other words. And we're looking for this complete derivation, sensorality, sensation, sensationality, something to that effect. Senality is sentativality, right? So now we take again, sensorality is representative from last episode, and then we just remove, right, that's the prefix now, sentative, right? Sentativality. A sentative is a sensorist. A sensorist is a sourcinist. Again, remember, what is a scientist? Right? A scientist uses their senses. We went through that derivation. A commentator comments. A sentative sensates. So again, it's just with this this complete reduction will be extremely simple. Sensorality is sensatality. Satality, Satan, satin. Right? Satality is sality. Exhausting every form of this logical word family that can be iterated with the letters and the syllables of sensorality, or if you just mix up the syllability, sourcinality. And it's kind of giving me, last episode we talked about how, syllables don't multiply. Really talking about how the growth or increasing being more rapid is really kind of the difference between multiplication and addition. And so, what was I saying? But they're just not multiplying. But like in the same way, if you have 3 plus 5 is the same as that 5 plus 3, it's indiscriminate. It doesn't matter which order you put those in. Sensorality is the same thing as sourcinality. Because right, the fundamentality, the basicness, the stability, right? Words have empirical meaning that can be reduced, but syllables are the factors of words. And so, right, sensorality is sourcinality. Sensorality uses syllables, right? Syllability is subility. Sensorality stabilizes. What is stability, right? I'm saying, like, physically I'm stable right now. I'm not going to, right? I'm at a stable equilibrium. And so I'm not gonna, what is stability? I guess physically just not movement, right? I would say stability fundamentally is not moving. But everything is moving, nothing is really static, right? Nothing has a zero temperature, and if you're interacting, if you're moving, if you always have a non-zero pressure, you're always gonna have a temperature. An absolute zero doesn't exist. What is stability? Words is plural or words are plural. Okay, what is exactly the consistency of conjugation? But point being is, I was going to say words is or are. Words are plural, but it's one word. Words is plural. So I know that sounds goofy. Sword is singular. And meaning just giving an introduction to what is a palindrome and what is an anagram. Right? A palindrome, the things that are spelled the same forward and backward, such as kayak or race car. Why do these exist? It's going to be, again, some direct aspect of this iteration function is the reason you have it can be read the same left to right or right to left. But anagrams, right? When I tried it, that words is plural, sword is singular, right? Words and sword are anagrams of one another, and one's plural and one's singular. So it makes it kind of awkward to, like, write a sentence with the conjugation of the verbs. And so, but just point being is, why do anagrams and palindromes exist, right? It's some aspect, it's some emergent phenomenon of all of these aspects of language and iteration that we've been demonstrating. Personality is derived from sensorality, right? You're born into a world. We're all nurtured in this world, and you have these ideas and stereotypes and goals and role models and accomplishments that you think for yourself. So your own personality is its aspiration to sensorality. And again, sensorality right now, I'm using the functional definition of life in its entirety. Right? You see somebody that's like you, whether it's your skin tone, religion, background, state, country, anything that makes you feel like you. You learned your principles or your identity from your environment. And so your personality, your individuality is derived, is assimilated, is gained by the general life that exists in the world, and then you interacting with it and you figuring out who you are as a person. Personality is special. Special is unique. Unique, a niche. Personality is persona, right? Clearly, again, don't need to explain that. Dynamicality is not set. Generality is formalism, right? We're taking all these specific results in language and we're trying to generalize it, but we've already generalized it, so now we're just iterating these forms of solutions. It is what it is, being the general form, speciality, being the first specific solution ever completely derived, thanks to your boy, you're welcome, and now sensorality. We're hopefully getting close soon, but we're done anticipating when that's going to occur. Or if it will occur, who knows? I could get in my car and bonk my head and not finish the proof, but if I'm dead, I'm certainly not worried about this stupid shit anymore, because none of this stuff is for me. All of this stuff is intellectual property that gets immediately stolen, so it's really not fun to do. But I have nothing else to do. But generality is formalism. When somebody says I'm formalizing something, they're just meaning they're showing its generality. They're putting it into a unique structure, an algorithm, a protocol, a form in which somebody else can execute some sort of process. Sensorality formulates. Capitulation spirals out of control. Because remember, we're still just connecting. Logically, what we're doing is we're connecting concepts, which produces cliches, right? That's because we all experience the same things. And then now we're iterating the linguistics, the letters, the words, the syllables to find this stabilizing theorem. A crescendo is a culmination. Censorship eliminates. Censorship withholds. Holding back withholds. So now we have another one of these slangish natural definitions, right? Holding back withholds. It's tautology, but somehow logically, withholding and holding are different. But holding back is withholding. Right? And so we're like, again, we're uniterating this logic, and we're going to show this fundamental differentiation that has happened in the past that is definitive. Because the present is dynamic, the past is set. A grip is a hold. Stereotypes prove consistency of conceptualization. So let me see if the concepts are universal. I want you to think of somebody that's really smart at math, that likes bubble tea, that maybe has a lot of rice in their environment. What type of person are you thinking of? How about let's try another one? How about let's think about a good sports star? How about basketball? What skin tone are you thinking of right now? Why is that? Right? It's because conceptualization is consistent. How about, I don't have any other good ones off the top of my head. But you get the point, right? All racism is stereotyping. And stereotyping exists because of consistency of conceptualization. But imagery is conceptual. Conceptualization, pictures, or conceptuality, pictures. What is thematicality, right? Our basis of mathematics is thematics. What is a theme? A theme is a topic. A theme is a pattern. A theme is a subject. A recurring theme is a motif. So now again, we're getting into this form of solution where it's already well defined, right? We're just filling in the blanks. And so, right, that is the functional definition of a motif, a recurring theme. And so, what is just a theme? And again, I'm not sure what the right question to ask is. That's what we're trying to find. And it'll be, again, as I always say, painfully obvious. And because remember, you go into a movie, it takes a lot more time to create a piece of work than it does to enjoy it or to process it. You listen to a song. It takes 4 minutes to listen to a song. You don't have to produce it, write the lyrics, mix and master it. Same thing with a movie. Big production, years and years, people watch it in a couple hours. This math proof, right, we're reducing it. So frankly, by the time any people that don't already know who I am watch this, it's going to all be reduced. And so you're going to see me just, hey, welcome to From Rhythm to Algorithm. And it's going to be redundant because, they're 10-minute, 20-minute episodes. And so, but a math proof is, again, even more reduced than like a movie. And so it's going to be like, people are going to see one video and all of this backing logic is just building the context, right? Spelling a word defines a variable, sensorality, and context defines it. And so once we reduce the context, and linguistically that's just the words you use around other words, there's going to be nothing left to say. But the entire process of this whole derivation, you can see the timestamps, 6 years. And again, that is after I've been deriving this level my whole life. I mean, these videos are just for intellectual property. And so you'll see all of this work, again demonstrating this consistency of language, this consistent set of axioms, and then the specific solutions. We know it exists because we can already see the result of, you're spelling sense. When you turn on your washing machine, it says sense with an S. That's not sensation like you have with an S. So it's immediately apparent what we're doing linguistically. And that's like I said, that's the big result linguistically. But logically, we've axiomatized physics, we've derived all of mathematics. I mean, huge, massive results. And the biggest one from this one is meaning is irreducible. And trying to just hone in on this question. But point being is, it takes a lot, this entire proof will be maybe 3 hours of derivation if you cut off all of the. Well, I don't really do intros or outros much at all. I'd say here's from rhythm to algorithm, here's sensorality, but it's because all we're doing is learning one vocab word that just hasn't been used much in society. There's nothing like novel or no big jumps or anything like that. But regardless, again, that's what I have for you for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.